you've been a mainstay in this division for a long time, and the fight win streak has been not just impressive because of the finishes and because it's 5 in a row, because, I mean, you have been a human highlight film. Every second of all of your fights has been very, very exciting, and I just think, you should be in this type of a position.
I agree with you 100%. I think I'm being overlooked, which isn't something new for me, which is fine. But after this fight, like, how can you overlook me? If I go in there and if I can do what I've done, if I can dominate in this fight, like, for how long are they going to look over me? Like, who are they going to try to give me to say, no, well, you got to beat this guy now. I just don't see it anymore. And, unfortunately, that fight with Oliveira didn't happen. He pulled out, and then he got a fight with Tony. But if man, that would have been pretty much all I needed. But now I have another fight. So honestly, man, I'm just excited to fight. I don't want to think about the drama of it, because there's always lots of drama. That's the fun part about the UFC. Before the fight, all the drama.
Yeah. Who do you think comes out of this weekend?
If you look at it, I think clearly Conor has an advantage in both striking and grappling. I just don't know if it's going to go 5 rounds. If it goes 5 rounds, then I don't know, because Dustin is so dang good in 5-round fights. He just gets better and better and better and better. So I'm leaning towards Conor, but if it goes 5 rounds, I think it would be Dustin. I think he would dig deeper.
What about Hooker and Chandler?
I'll go with Hooker. I don't know enough about Chandler. I mean, I've seen him fight in Bellator, but like, Bellator and the UFC are not the same thing. We'll see how he moves in the UFC. Different pressure, different spotlight, and different opponents. I feel like he's fought all the same opponents in Bellator, but now it's different.
What did you think of the fact that Max Holloway says, I haven't even been sparring my last 2 camps, which is the opposite of what happens at King's MMA?
Bro, Max Holloway is something special. That fight was something special. Like, how many guys have you seen that could do that? I don't know if I've ever seen anyone do anything like that. So that fight for me was incredible. I couldn't believe what Max did. And then to go out there and say, I don't spar anymore, it makes you think your whole career, it makes you think your whole training style. And I don't spar when I don't have a fight, but when I do have a fight, I always spar Fridays. I spar hard Fridays, and then Tuesdays I have small glove sparring, which is more focused on small glove sparring. It's more focused on grappling. So it's mind-blowing to me. I don't know how to digest the whole process, the whole thing when he says I don't spar anymore. So I really don't know what to tell you. It's I think it's going to affect a lot of people.
Benny, this weekend, hearing Dana White and Khabib and hearing Khabib's decision, were you leaning towards anything? Like, were you hoping he'd say I'd stick around? Were you hoping he'd just go away so everything else can fall into place?
I hope he sticks around if he still wants to fight. If he's genuinely still wanting to fight, I hope he sticks around. But if not, I think, man, why fight if you don't want to fight? Like, this morning I woke up and I was thinking to myself, they give you this Aura ring. They tell you to check your heart rate. They tell you to do all this stuff. And I'm the best I've ever been in terms of shape, in terms of technique. And I think mentally, spiritually, I'm the best I've ever been. And I thought to myself, man, I hope this is in the end. I hope this isn't like the best I can be. I hope I can get better than this in the future. And so with that being said, I wonder if Khabib thinks that. Like, does he want to get better, or does he just want to get one more fight and call it, kind of thing? So if he doesn't want to fight anymore, if he doesn't want to continue to improve, and man, don't fight. But if you still have a hunger to get better, still have a hunger to show the world that there's more to you, then yeah, you can fight.
We're in a different era right now where social media is so big. back in the day, you wouldn't even be able to know unless somebody told you what your opponent is up to, what he's doing. Now, if he wants, he could be watching this interview with you right now. Do you ever keep tabs of your opponent, see what he's up to? Do you check his Instagram, his Twitter, that sort of thing?
Not well. One time we had a friendly exchange on Twitter, so I looked at his Twitter and stuff, but not too much, to be honest. It's it makes it harder to fight the person, because I mean, Diego's a really nice guy. He's not like a bad guy, or he's a nice guy. He's a family man. He has the same dreams I do. He's working just as hard as I am. He does the same thing I do every day. So if you get too into it, for me, it's going to make it harder to fight him. You know, you start to see yourself in the other person's shoes. So to be honest, I prefer not to look too much.
Last time we had you on, you told us the story about the orphanage and the kids that you've been helping out. And I was curious, how much of your career do they know about? And could they possibly be watching this fight?
I don't think they know too much. I think they know. I mean, they know I fight, but I don't think they've seen that many fights of mine. You know, the internet there isn't that great. I doubt they've seen anything live. I know, you know, the pastor who runs the orphanage, he checks, he knows my fights. He checks on the news, but like to see the fights live is a little bit difficult in Haiti. But I mean, I'm sure he updates them. That's kind of the thing right now. He keeps, he lets them know what's going on. But no, they don't have an idea. I don't think they've seen all my fights, if that's what you're saying.
One last question for me, Benny. I've been praising your work rate, like I say, every fight that you've had as of late, and really for a long time. It seems like every technique you throw is 100% violent. And I wanted to ask you, has Shelby, Maynard, or Dana at least come back and told you something like that? Like, you know, like their appreciation for how hard you kick, how even, you know, everything, like I say, everything you throw is with such bad intentions, and that's pretty impressive.
Sean mentioned something like that. Dana too, but Sean I thought was the funniest. Sean watched my fight, my last fight, and then, you know, the next day he texted me because he watched my interviews post fight, and he's like, "Bro, you can't be saying stuff like that." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "You can't be saying I'm not gonna call people out. I'm not doing that anymore." And then, you know, you're gonna knock a person out like that. You're not gonna call anybody out, and on top of that, you miss weight your last fight. So like, do you think anybody's gonna want to fight you? And I think Sean's really funny. He's so honest. I appreciate his honesty. So if I speak with Sean, I know exactly where I'm at. I thought that was really cool. And then with Dana, he just messages me and says like, "Great fight," something like that. But Sean really mentions like how brutal the fight was, and Sean mentions all the stuff you just said.
I'm telling you, man, if I was like on the verge of retiring and I fought you and got lit up the way you light some guys up, I think I'd go, "That's it, man." I mean, that was I don't know. Sometimes it feels like you're swinging a fucking baseball bat, like you're,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like you're defending your family or something like that. Like this guy really, really did something. And I know it's just the mindset, and I'm not trying to say you're violent or nothing like that. I'm just saying I don't know. You just get down, man, in the octagon.
You know, I've always been kind of savage. As a kid, it was always easier to break stuff than build stuff, and just like fighting was the easiest thing for me. It was never difficult to get in a fight. It was never difficult to you know, overcome the fear of fighting. The more difficult things have always been relationships for me, and that's what you see inside that octagon. Thank God, you know, by his grace, I went from being a savage to a servant in a lot of places in my life, so I appreciate that. But that part of me never goes away, and if you put me inside that octagon, it's kill or die. And another thing that's been really cool about it is, you know, Master Rafael's been working with Mike Tyson, and you can't believe how inspired Master Rafael's been ever since he started working with Mike. The passion and like his drive and the way he speaks, he's always been passionate. But now, like when we're sparring, when we're training, and I just hear his voice and I hear him say go, and I hear him like, hey, like it inspires you. In the middle of training, I'm more focused on his passion than I am sparring sometimes. And I rewatch the videos. It's so good. So that's another thing that's been really cool, is just having the influence of Mike Tyson come over to King's MMA.
Has it been like indirect just through Master Rafael, or has Tyson stepped into the gym?
For me, it's been indirect. A couple other guys have seen him train and been around the training, but unfortunately for me, I've missed it every time. But I've been fortunate enough to get it from Master Rafael, so I'm not complaining at all.
All right. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining us today. Can't wait for your fight. It's like 3 weeks away. So, folks, I'm telling you, this is the guy, the UFC. If they're going to be back on ABC, throw this guy in there. There's just some fighters out there that are made for TV. You're one of them, Benny.
I appreciate that. I hope next time, when I become champion, I won't have to MacGyver my camera, my phone on my car. But if I do, I hope you guys still take me on.
I'm just glad.
Always.
I'm glad he used MacGyver, because Jamal Hill made me feel so old with some of his references and stuff. I love MacGyver.
Bro, have you heard the word cap?
Cap?
I have these kids cap. Yeah, they keep telling me stop capping. And I'm like, what the heck does that mean? I got these young guys I wrestle with, some of them high school, some of them college. And every time I say something, they'll be like, stop the cap. I say, what the heck does that mean? What do you mean? I guess it means lying. Stop lying. I'm like, so we go back and forth. You won't believe it, but I love to talk crap to the younger generation. I love to bully them, and now they say things that I don't know. The change in the last couple of years in terminology, I'm lost. I can't keep up with half the stuff they say.
Me neither.
And then I'll say something, and they'll be like, "That's sus," and I'm like sus like sauce. Or suspect, and then I figured out it was suspect. But I'm like,
my nephew does that.
But they also say sauce, like I got the sauce or something sauced up. So I'm lost. I'm lost half the time. How do you deal with kids nowadays? How do you deal with that terminology? My kids talk like that and beat their butts.
My nephew does that. He told me the other day, I bet the dog, which is short for underdog. I get that one. And then he's been shortening words. I don't know if the kids are getting lazy or one, but he told me, he goes, I'm thinking of putting them in a lay. And I'm like, a lay? A parlay? He goes, yeah. A parlay, which means you have to
How old is he?
two things. He's 22, I think. And I'm like, oh, really? We didn't even shorten it that much. Parlay? I mean, what? That's not that big of a deal. In fact, Benny, let me tell you something. I get pissed when it goes, I tell him something, and he writes me back K. Instead of okay, he just writes K. I always thought that's something like a little schoolgirl does. She just goes K because it sounds cute. But Goes has been sending me just K lately when all he has to do is put okay. It's only one more letter.
I'll take K over sus or cap, stop the cap, or whatever you just said. I'll take K any day of the week. At least I know what it means. I barely know what the other stuff means. I'm learning something new every day, and I'm just like, do I really want to know this? Is this really beneficial to me?
I don't like when people spell out K-A-Y. That's even longer. That makes no sense.
That's just a lot of effort. They're just trying to be cute. You let that go.
All right, my man. We're gonna let you go because you got practice and you got a big fight coming up. Can't wait for it. Thanks as always for giving us the time.
Let's go.